This is my audience.
Hello, my name is Connor Grandy. Every year, thousands of young athletes suffer concussions playing American football. The physicality of the sport is undeniable. What if I tell you there's an alternative that offers the same level of competition, teamwork, and athleticism, without the same level of injury risk? That alternative is rugby. When people think of rugby, they often assume it's even more dangerous than football because players don't wear helmets or heavy padding. However, the reality is quite the opposite. Rugby players are taught safer tackling techniques. The lack of excessive protective gear discourages reckless hits, and injury studies show that rugby has lower rates of catastrophic injuries than football. Today I'm here to persuade you that it should be promoted in schools as a safer alternative to American football. By the end of this speech, I hope you'll see that rugby isn't just a tough sport. It's a smarter, safer choice for athletes who love full contact competition. One of the biggest differences between rugby and football is how players are taught to tackle. In football, players often lead with their heads or shoulders, creating a dangerous risk of concussions and spinal injuries. The presence of helmets gives a false sense of security, encouraging high-speed, high-impact collisions. Rugby, on the other hand, enforces a different approach. Players are taught to wrap with their arms around the opponent instead of using their heads. Aim for the lower body rather than upper body or head. Keep their heads out of the way to avoid direct head-to-head contact. This technique significantly reduces direct head impacts. The NFL has even taken notice. The Seattle Seahawks and other teams have adopted a rugby-style tackling method called hawk tackle to decrease concussions. If professional football teams recognize that rugby tackling is safer, why wouldn't we? As a common misconception is that rugby must be more dangerous than football because players don't wear helmets or bulky pads. But in reality, this lack of equipment actually makes players more cautious. Rugby players know they can't recklessly launch themselves into tackles like football players do. Instead, they focus on a safe, controlled contact. Rugby culture prioritizes technique over brute force, meaning that players develop habits that reduce injury risk over time. Studies show that helmets in football don't prevent concussions. They only prevent skull fractures. In fact, helmets encourage riskier behavior, leading to more high-impact collisions. A recent case in professional rugby league sparked debates about the safety of tackling. Yet, experts still argue that rugby-style play results in fewer severe head injuries compared to American football. If helmets made football safer, we wouldn't see such a high rate of concussions every season. Instead, the sport needs to adopt a safer culture of tackling, something rugby has already mastered. Now, let's look at the numbers. While rugby is a full contact sport, studies have shown that American football has nearly twice the rate of catastrophic head and spine injuries compared to rugby. Why? Because football players experience more high-speed collisions, helmet-to-helmet contact, and dangerous pile-ups. Meanwhile, rugby's tackling rules and overall game flow limit these types of high-impact injuries. Another key difference is concussion protocols. Rugby's head injury assessment, or the HIA program, requires players to be immediately removed and evaluated if a concussion is suspected. If a player fails the HIA, they cannot return to the game. The NFL, on the other hand, has been widely criticized for allowing players to return too soon, often putting their health at greater risk. Even with growing concerns about concussion in all contact sports, a study suggests that playing community-level sports, including rugby, does not significantly increase long-term cognitive risk. Rugby players are still susceptible to injury. There's no denying that. But when it comes to head and spinal injuries, that sport has significantly lowered long-term risk than football. So what does this all mean? Rugby provides the same intense competition, teamwork, and physicality as football, but with significantly lower risk head and spinal injuries. Safer tackling techniques mean fewer concussions. Less protective gear encourages responsible play rather than reckless hits. Stricter concussion protocols ensure player safety. It's time we start promoting rugby as a viable alternative American football in schools. Encouraging students to play rugby can reduce long-term sports injuries while still giving them the opportunity to enjoy everything great about team sports. So the next time someone tells you that rugby is more dangerous than football, you can set the record straight because the facts say otherwise. Thank you.